Hello, it's Friday, August 5th, 12:10 p.m. Pacific Coast Time. Sunny, as you can tell. Doing a little bit of cooking in the sun oven, and I thought I would just do a Wujo out here as opposed to using my phone. I'm attempting to use my Hero 2. Anyway, that stuff aside, there's a lot of different subjects that we could go into for the Wujo, but some of the more pressing at the moment appear to be our climatic and climactic problems. The climatic ones are the climate change, under whatever name they're going to call it. The warmest will have you try and understand it a particular way. I don't know how they're going to justify their position vis-a-vis climate change when we're going to be obviously heading into an ice age. At some point they're going to have to, because I don't think carbon credit banking makes any sense in an ice age scenario. Only to them with the heat can they make money on it. But they'll probably figure out some way to make money on it. Don't worry about it. Anyway, the whole system's crashing. The complexity is such that we're at the end of a number of cycles, 100,000 years in terms of how the solar system is moving relative to the intergalactic plane and what everybody calls the galactic center, really the dark rift in the Milky Way. There's a 100,000 year cycle we're completing there that's going to push us towards the ice age. We've got a 26 and a 27,000 or 25 and a 26,000 year cycles completing that are also impacting the sun and its relationship. They're probably conjunct at this point, that 100,000 year cycle, so they're probably starting to compound on each other. Anyway, the cycles are just going all the way down, and if you go and listen to this guy, Bo Polney, you'll see he's got cycles that are, he's talking about 252 year cycles, etc. In the economic, in the world of humans, so to speak. So all of these things are converging. We're going to have a period of time in which we've got to deal with economic issues. Those will be in the forefront of everybody's brain, for the most part in the Western world. And then, according to our data sets, as time progresses, and let's say that's latter half of 2017 into 2018, then what we're going to get into is a period of time where from underneath all of the economic problems, and also on top of us, we're going to get weather issues we've got to deal with as the planet moves further into an ice age condition. And we're going to get more and more firm evidence of this going forward. We're going to get apparently some really dramatic stuff this fall. Maybe as early as late August or early September, we'll see regions plunged into winter. No prelude, no fall, just boom, right into winter. Apples frozen on the tree, grapes frozen on the vine, that kind of thing. Anyway, a lot of that, a lot of crop damage, a lot of problems. So in the midst of all of this, we're going to have this political upheaval, economic upheaval, central authority, paper debt. I don't know if you want to call it a collapse. It's what'd the guy call it? Von Mises. He called it a crack-up boom, and that's probably what it is. It'll just go and blow, and that's it. It won't collapse. It'll be like a cartoon kind of a thing where they keep blowing up the balloon and it sucks them inside it and it keeps growing, and then when it blows up there's just little shards going everywhere, and you don't have any contiguous or continuous anything anymore. And that seems like what we're headed towards. So we've got some really major issues as we progress forward here, beyond the daily issues of things like Bitcoin, silver, and gold and the prices. We're going to have planet-wide issues relative to things like energy, production of materials, and food, especially as we move in towards more of this really nasty climate upheaval. Go to halfpasthuman.com and look on the update section, and we'll have little connector links to various places you can look at collections of the different kinds of strange weather that's showing up. And it's just the beginning now, because we're in this planetary expansion as we go through this 100,000-year cycle, the sun is also going in a 100,000-year cycle. When it hits a particular point in space, it produces more energy because space is not a vacuum. It's only a vacuum behind the sun, not ahead of it. And it has to plow through this matter. It gets a different kind of an aura, produces different kind of radiations and so on, and then we get it. The Earth is not, doesn't have a magnetic core, it's got a plasma core. As the high energy particles go zinging right through you, me, and the planet, they get trapped by the plasma traps all this energy, E equals mc squared, and it spits out a hydrogen atom. And eventually all the hydrogen atoms clump together. They form helium and oxygen and argon and all the other gases and so on, and then eventually you make petroleum as it percolates up through the matter of the planet under pressure. And this is just the way that things work. Nice little red dragonfly come to join the talk. Anyway though, so there's this confluence of events that are going on, and as I was saying initially, or going to say initially, I don't know if I did, there's a lot of things we could talk about. It'd be interesting to discuss dark matter and some of the more arcane aspects of woo-woo, but at the moment we got some real shit coming our way, and we got to keep it real and stay real. And that is, we've got food crises that are going to affect the planet to the point where we're going to have to shovel food from one point to the other. We're going to have to get it around because people will really be suffering in huge areas due to the climate change. And they're not being prepared for it, and none of us really being prepared for the violence of the climate change. And here's the issue. The climate change is a process. It's done through oscillation between hot and cold, and then pretty soon, in a general sense around the planet, and then pretty soon over the planetary envelope, you get a breakdown of the convection system, which we've just seen where the jet stream started crossing the equator for the first time. In known human history anyway, and then the breakdown of the convection system is temporally coincident with the oscillation between hot and cold within regions on the planet, not just the planet as a whole, so it breaks down into like spots all over. And then as this process gets going forward, you get this uneven distribution of climatic effects issues. Like today is a very nice hot day. It's one of maybe 3 or 4 we've had so far this year. We had better weather in late March and once again in early May than we've had the rest of our supposed summer. This may end tomorrow. Every night we get strange storms that we normally don't get, and a sudden drop in temperature. So it's been quite odd for the people in the Northwest in terms of a lack of a summer. And this kind of an effect is going to be felt all over. The distribution of uneven climate events is going to affect food, it's going to affect just-in-time delivery system, it's going to affect us all. It's going to cause, and is coincident with, the increase in the expansion of the Earth events as well, where the new matter is created, the planet has to grow. As it does so, the old matter has to separate a bit to give room to the new guys, all those new atoms of, carbon and everything else. And so we get these sinkholes and all the other effects we've been seeing. And these are going to grow in probably for the next 40 or 50 years in terms of the kinds of events we have to deal with on a bell curve. They'll peak somewhere maybe 2031, 2041, something like that, and then start ratcheting down just as we've seen them ratchet up. So the progression of all of this, for myself at the moment, is more focused on the long-term data that is basically over the next 10 years and getting ready for the immediate hiccups that are over this year, 2017 and 2018. To that end, I'm making changes in how we do things at Half Past Human, eliminating as much as we can in the way of overhead, time wastage, and this kind of thing. Just because even in a small organization, a little crap creeps in. And we're trying to conserve that because we need to put our energies into preparation at a level we had not anticipated and in a much more rapid pace. We're ready to do things, but our property here is shaded for the most part, except for a few days in the midsummer, such as we're in now. So we need to make arrangements for our own food growing so we're not a burden on the rest of society. And it's going to be difficult. We don't know what the conditions are going to be, other than they're going to be different than we have now, and likely will include longer, colder winters, maybe far less sun, I don't know. and certainly not a very clement weather, so I'm planning on doing a lot of growing under greenhouse conditions and setting up gardens that way. Anyway, so there's that in terms of long-term data. Yeah, so our data sets in terms of the emotional focus, if you will, if I go in and I do a particular executable I've got, creates a kind of a little, I guess the chart guys would call it a candlestick sort of a thing, that shows me where the emotional focus would be in any given time period relative to this data set under the discussion. So in this past report for August, when running that, and it hits the long-term data, what it shows is that we're in a economic/political crisis that then moves to political/economic, that then moves to economic, and then moves to political, and then existential political, and then is political and climate, and then is climate, and beyond, and in this thread in here somewhere in the November period of this fall, what we'll call fall on the calendar, but may not in any way resemble fall where you happen to live. May be blazingly hot, incredible droughts. You may get weird monsoon conditions. A lot of the weird monsoon stuff just showing up. It's going to be quite strange that way. These weird popcorn storms where they come along and just drop everything on you like that. And then we're going to get these rivers. Now, I think there's been a misunderstanding, by the way. Let me clarify this. Insofar as I'm concerned, the things I've seen on the videos are not really the rivers in the sky, except maybe in one instance, and that was Phoenix. But the ones I've been seeing are these instant, sudden atmospheric decompression, and that's more the lake in the sky just letting loose all at once, just like that. And those have been in the data sets easily since 2014, I think. I have to check on that. Anyway, the lake in the sky effect. And then we've got the river in the sky. Now, the river in the sky is very much like that, but what it's described to us is as though there's a hard stop, clouds pack into this, dump water right here, and keep coming like a tsunami, and it just doesn't stop and doesn't stop and doesn't stop. So it's not something where you're going to get 15 inches in 3 minutes or 3 inches in 15 minutes. It's going to be 3 inches a half hour, or 3 inches every 20 minutes that starts at that level. May vary ever so slightly, but not much, and keeps going like that for 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 days. And it's going to get so bad that some of the data sets are suggesting that some of the countries are going to haul in artillery to kind of like try and blow the atmosphere to disrupt those kind of things. Where and when, I don't know. I didn't bother to get into that in the report because of its cross-links, but in any event, so these rivers in the sky are going to manifest and they'll really wash away things. That's how we're going to end up with giant arroyos or new river valleys being cut out of places just because the rain keeps coming down. And then we're going to get these ice age effects too, where we will get freezing and it'll stay, and it'll be a new kind of freezing, and it'll show up in early September. There's a lot of pollen here, and stick around for a number of months, if not all the way through into winter. So that's kind of our focus at the moment. Now on to the more immediacy data focused stuff. Yeah, we've had the crashing of the Bitcoin and gold and silver. Gold and silver are manipulated down. I've always reported the emotional components that go with gold and silver. I understand they're manipulated, and I don't bother to look for a reconciliation between the emotional component and the manipulation, because I know that absent the manipulation, my gauge in the emotional component for silver and gold at that particular time is probably would have been probably fairly accurate. And so we're in a very distorted universe. So this is I decided this back, and I had a terrible debate with a fellow I was working with, not on the project, just who knew of my work, and we had a big fight about it in like 2005 or 2006. And I decided, no, I'd keep reporting the silver emotional components as they are, because it's valuable in one weird but perhaps fortuitous manner. And that is that absent the manipulation, my emotional components that I've characterized silver would be fairly accurate. If we accepted that as a premise, then a corollary to that would be that should the manipulation go away, those emotional values will express and we'll get silver and gold to shoot up to their potential as expressed by those emotional values. Now, I personally think they'll actually overshoot because that's just the way humans are. And then they'll come back down and hover around where they should be relative to the emotional values and what the hell's going on in the global economic situation. That said, our immediacy data is still showing that we're pending a number of items in silver, and the air gaps, the 3 limit up in a single day, all of these kind of things. I understand Bitcoin had been hammered down. I understand gold and silver or Bitcoin fell. It does that. I can't say that it was manipulated, although there was a steady stream of selling into this whole process of it going down, which may have been people that have been thieving the Bitcoin. I don't know what they're thinking if they stole a bunch of Bitcoin and then tried to turn around and sell it. It's like they stole it, the price starts going down because they steal it, and then they start freaking out and start selling into the into the freak out everybody else is having, compounding the problem. But Bitcoin is like that, and you'll notice it hit a low, I don't know where the hell it was, now it's bounced up. And it's going to go back through, and it'll go through the 688 stuff. Our data sets always concentrate the negative, so I don't really get any of it through the model space. I deliberately filter it out. So in other words, basically what I'm doing is tuning my data sets to only get the top half of these charts of waves, because otherwise I would constantly be looking at all these down things because I can't really see both relative to the way in which the data is processed. My forecast, I just want to know when things are going up so that I could, used to be, buy ahead of that. And now the idea would be to sell some of it into strength for some of these other projects I've got to take care of relative to what's going on in the long-term data and what's showing up for food crops, climate change, and all of those kind of things. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is headed back up. Bitcoin's going to go through the 688 and do its walk up to 1,000. It's going to climb up to the 688. That's why it's going to be so slow. There's one caveat to all of this, okay? And here's the thing. The powers that be, the guys who do the manipulation, they're not dead. They haven't given up. They're still putting energy into this shit. And they do really nasty stuff, okay? They understand emotional energy in a way that us guys don't. And what they do is they will kill a lot of people. Human fucking sacrifice. And they do it in the form of false flags. And they do it to divert our energy. So here we are trucking right along, heading towards an economic debacle that's going to leave all of these guys beheaded because they've been telling us to eat cake. And we're tired of hearing that when our bellies are grumbling. And so it's going to lead to, French Revolution style, hey guys, y'all come on over here. We got a long walk off a short pier with a rope attached, kind of a thing. They know this. So what they do is they have these energetic kind of approaches where they come on out and they, get some lone nut under mind control and have him going out with 2 or 3 people to back him up. So it looks like he's a really effective lone nut. And then they go and they machine gun a bunch of people and call it a terror attack. And they do it on a propitious day for their energetic approach. So that's the caveat. We're due for some major economic fireworks, settlement time, if you will, this month in August, and not even very far from where we are in August. So yesterday, August 4 to the 14th, was this like hot zone in our data sets for this ramp up in emotional values that leads to a nexus right about mid-month. So I'm wondering if there isn't going to be some kind of false flag stuff right around mid-month, all kinds of activity that way, and so on. Coincident to that, and I haven't watched all of it, I just saw a little tiny bit of Dick Allgaier, but the Farsight guys have released one of their videos done last month, which was forecast for this month, and they show basically a big blow up, which could be interpreted as a meteor or a missile or some such. Coincident with that, we've had in our data sets going back, I don't know, a long time, months and months and months, maybe 6 months, maybe 8, I don't know how long ago it was, we'd have to go back and look, but we've had this thing about the Turkish mistake, how they're going to explode something they shouldn't and apologize for it and blah, blah, blah. It was going to cause economic problems. And so maybe the confluence of events, the Turks having the nuclear base surrounded, the Farsight guys seeing this stuff last month for this month, and it actually turns out to be something, you know, related to the nukes or to the military base. Our stuff showing explosion for a number of months that then impacts an insurance company that then goes on to cause problems, major problems that take the floor out of the Italian banks, roll back onto the Vatican, cause problems for the Germans, bring up all of this angst and uber upwelling within the Germans for dealing with the powers that be and their own support of things, tacit, but you know, not unknowing these past years. And then that cascades forward into the Federal Reserve and the dollar-denominated empire. And that brings us to, you know, all kinds of debacles about September-October period. And there you go. That's kind of like the quick playbook, you know, overview of what's pending. And so, under the circumstances, we've taken too much time here already, but it's not really appropriate to go into things that can wait. And basically, if there's more time in the future, you know, that's less crowded with crises and so forth, well, we can get to that kind of stuff. But at the moment, it's, you know, we're focusing in on answering some really tough questions. How do you approach going into an ice age where your own local climate may suffer a cataclysm at any moment and deprive you of any of your usual local food resources? You know, under the conditions of these rivers and these lakes out of the sky, water from the sky I don't think is too much of a problem in terms of getting water is not going to be too much of an issue for us, although we could go into a drought for all I know. Still, those are the sorts of questions we're attempting to occupy ourselves with at the moment and get settled in for the chaos in the world of humans that will be rapidly approaching us, that we actually started at a much accelerated rate with the emotionalism of the 16 days in July, which was again shunted over towards the social stuff. I really was hoping it wasn't going to end up that way, but it did. And it didn't go into the economic, and they may try that again. So bear that in mind. If if people start blowing each other up, it's the powers that be trying to derail all of this emotionalism going into the economic stuff, which leads to their downfall. And I've got to get out of the sun. I've got other work to do. Once again, this is Friday, August 5th, probably around 12:45.